Hello, everyone, and welcome to the first inaugural edition episode of Lair of the Behemoth. This is a new podcast that I'm doing that is meant to replace the heavy NFLD podcast, which, if you followed along with that over the several years that I had been doing it, was basically a way for me to promote heavy and alternative music from Newfoundland and Labrador. However, over the years, I found that having a podcast that was specifically tied to that one region of the country was kind of limiting. And if you'll notice, if you look through like the Bandcamp page or the YouTube playlist or whatever, there are a number of episodes that I did that were tailored to other parts of the country. I did a Montreal exclusive episode once. I did an episode for Nova Scotia, an episode for PEI. I think I did one for New Brunswick as well. And the reason I did those was specifically because I, again, felt that I was just too tied down to this one location. So, the idea for this new podcast is to basically pick up right where the old one left off, just broadening my horizons and essentially allowing me to talk about whatever the hell I want, and also to cover artists from wherever. It doesn't matter. Of course, there's still going to be a pretty strong bent, I think, towards Canadian artists, simply because of it being the country I live in. You know, I live in Montreal. If you're listening to this, chances are you already know that. Chances are you know me in real life, so you've spoken to me here in Montreal, probably at a show or something. Who knows? But yeah, that's the general idea behind this. I don't want it to be specifically just about music, though that is obviously going to be like a huge part of the general thrust of the content of this show. And who knows, it might not even work out, but I've always had this drive in me to have some kind of show like this. So we're going to test the waters here with Lair of the Behemoth. That's still a working title, but I might stick with it if I end up liking it in a few months from now. As for the schedule of this show, I am going to try and do it on a monthly basis, but if I end up getting into a better rhythm, I might actually increase that to do it maybe 2 or even 3 times monthly. We will see about that. But we're going to start things off right now by playing a few tracks. We're going to play a few songs from my own bands to kick things off, because I am nothing if not a self-interested narcissist. We're going to play a song from the new Mistwalker record called Vote for the Goat, which is off the album The Obsidian Gospel. Had a great time writing and recording this thing, even though it took me way too long to get it out there. And then we're going to play a song from my other band, Ratpiss, which you've probably heard more about. And then we're going to play a song from the band Seum coming up after that, who are good friends of mine. So yeah, without further ado, this is Vote for the Goat by Mistwalker from the album The Obsidian Gospel.
Yeah, I decided not to park here. Well, what do you mean? You decided not to park here? Yeah, I just came in. I decided not to park here, so... Well, I'm sorry, sir. We still got to charge you the $4. I just fucking pulled in here. Well, but... See, there's a minimum charge of $4. Long-term parking charges $1 a day. Here, here's your $4, you pathetic piece of shit. Alright.
Rough submit, or rock on. One base, one trap, one card. This is it, fucking life, yeah.
Alright, so what you just heard was Vote for the Goat by Mistwalker, that's me, from my new album The Obsidian Gospel, which released earlier this month. That was followed by Gay Sex by my other band Ratpiss, which was released back in April, I believe. I don't even know. I don't even know the release date of my own damn EP, can you believe that? And that was followed by Parking Life by Seum, which is the title track off of their new album, which also released earlier this year. By the way, I also made a playlist for their album release party, which they hosted at Microbrasserie T.O.A.D. Back in April. It was at the end of April. I'm trying to remember off the top of my head. And that playlist was basically just the album's tracks interspliced with classic tracks from doom metal bands, stoner rock bands, bands that are in that sort of wheelhouse. And the playlist was like over an hour long, and that is up on my YouTube channel. You can find that on the Viridian Cult Productions YouTube channel specifically. Because when I say my YouTube channel, sometimes I forget that I have like 6 different channels on the go, because I am insane. But yeah, I really like Parking Life. I think it's a really great record. I also reviewed it on my blog at wherestrides.behemoth.wordpress.com, which is what this podcast is now named after. And if you were wondering, the intro track is the intro track of the old Heavy NFLD podcast. I'm going to be using that intro for a while until I actually get around to writing and recording something that I can use as an intro for this show specifically, because I want this show to have its own identity and not to be the same as the Heavy NFLD one. But with all of that out of the way, we are going to talk about what's coming up this weekend, of course. I'm hoping that this will be dropping tomorrow. I'm recording this on Thursday, May 28th. Hopefully this gets dropped on Friday morning, because this weekend is Earslaughter weekend. Of course, Earslaughter is the big grindcore fest that happens in Montreal every year. This is the 8th annual edition of the fest, not counting the one time that it was canceled because of COVID. And the lineup this year is actually a lot of bands who I don't know. So we have, of the bands that I am aware of, there's Bleeding Out from Hamilton, who I've seen before. Truth of All Death, also known as T.O.A.D, who are from Toronto. And my band Ratpiss has played with them a number of times. Those guys are really cool. They're just like one guitar, drums, and both of them do vocals. So it's a very minimalist grindcore, I guess you could say. Must be easy to tour with just 2 people in a band. Then there is Morgue Breath from California, who have played Earslaughter before, and the last time they were here, we hosted them actually at our apartment, and we're doing that again this year. Those folks are super cool. I will never forget watching the the main guy from Morgue Breath basically get into like a giant fight with the sound tech at Piranha Bar. It was one of the funniest things I've ever seen happen at a show. Maybe I'll explain that story in further detail later on. And we have Tandemoniak, who are from Quebec City. They're also a duo, if I remember correctly. And all of their songs are basically about riding bicycles. So they're, I guess, a bit of a novelty band in that regard, but their music kicks ass. It's basically like if you thought that like there was this genre of metal that was specifically about motorcycles, like, you know, like Motorhead or Inepsy or that kind of thing. Make it grindcore and then make it about bicycles, but keep the aesthetic the same. That's what's going on, and I love it. The Saturday headliner for Earslaughter is this band called Chapang, who I've never heard of, but apparently they're partially Nepalese, which is pretty cool. I can't say I know a single other metal or extreme band from Nepal, so that's pretty cool. Yeah, they're headlining on Saturday. I forget who the headliner on Friday is, but basically every other band on this lineup this year, I don't know. So I'm going to be going in like 75% blind, which is fun sometimes. You know, sometimes it's fun to go to a show and not really know what to expect. I mean, of course, with this we're expecting grindcore or power violence or sludge metal, you know, some kind of milieu of those different genres, maybe crust punk as well. But, you know, not all grindcore is created equal. Some of these bands, I'm sure, are going to have a wildly different sound than others. But aside from the music side, there's also going to be wrestling on Saturday night. I think it starts around 9 o'clock, and that's going to be fun. It's always fun when there is wrestling involved with any kind of metal or extreme music show. They do that at the Fatale parking lot every now and then, which is super entertaining. If you've never gone to it, I highly recommend you do. They also have a bunch of merch coming out this year. There is a collaboration with Sexy Sauce for the Fest's official hot sauce, which will be available in limited quantities at the merch table, and all proceeds of which are going towards the Southwest Fish and Reptile Sanctuary, so that's going to a good cause. I am definitely looking forward to getting some of that and trying it out. And as always, food will be provided by the fine folks at the Griller Killer Grindcore Barbecue outfit, who I love those guys. They're super chill, and one of them, JP, is actually the DM of my current Vampire the Masquerade campaign. Just a little bit of interesting trivia for you there, I guess. The Friday show starts at 6:30 p.m., and then Saturday starts at 5:30. That is, of course, again, May 29th and May 30th, this weekend at Fouf's, Fufun Electrique. And as always, I'm going to be there with my camera. I don't know if I'm going to film every band, but I'll try and get as much of the fest as possible. But I'm going to play a few songs from some of the bands that are playing this year. Coming up first, we got Tandemoniak. Oh, fuck yeah, man. That shit's got me hyped for Earslaughter, let me tell you. What you just heard was Minor Stretch by Tandemoniak from their 2024 album Ride the Steel. That was followed by Truth of All Death, or T.O.A.D, with their song Face on Fire from their recent split with God. That's a G.O.D. They're a pretty killer gore grind band from Peterborough, Ontario. And then that was followed by Plaga Sin Rostro by Morgue Breath from the album of the same name, which also came out in 2024. So yeah, if you're going to be at Earslaughter this weekend, then that's some stuff that you can probably expect to hear. Goddamn. I do love me some grindcore, though honestly I don't really listen to it all that much in like my own time. 90% of the time when I'm just listening to music, typically if I'm at work, it's usually like trad metal or speed metal, stuff like that. I listen to a lot of new releases to review them on my blog, but grindcore and gore grind are not genres that I typically gravitate towards, like actually devoting time to listen to. It's more something that I prefer to experience in a live setting, or even, writing it and playing it, like with my own band Ratpiss, who I played earlier in the show. But that's why I fucking love Earslaughter. It's going and experiencing a whole weekend of just ultra brutal, insanely fast music. So I'm really looking forward to this weekend, and I hope that if you're listening to this, that you see me there, and maybe we'll have a chat or something. Whatever. So this week would have been the May edition of Blackened Tuesday, which is the karaoke night that I would host at L'Hémisphère Gauche here in Montreal on the last Tuesday of every month. It would have been, earlier this week, obviously. But in case you weren't aware, I have called it quits on Blackened Tuesday for good. And the main reason was just because of a lack of attendance, For me to go out and spend like 4 hours at a bar on a weekday night, just kind of like sitting there and putting songs on and going through the motions for that, it's worth it because I was getting paid to do that. But the last two editions of it that I did, which were in February and March of this year, I didn't get a single person that came through for karaoke. So, there were two nights, one in February, one in March, where I basically spent 3 or 4 hours sitting in a bar, waiting for people to show up, getting a little drunk, and then going home. And to me, that is untenable. So, it's sad to say, but yeah, there was just a lack of attendance, so I decided to, pull the plug on this thing that honestly had been kind of on life support anyways for the last year or so. But I did want to say thank you to Sean and to L'Hémisphère Gauche for first approaching me with the idea to begin with, and for helping me organize it, and for just having me there in general, because it was fun while it lasted. But you know what, there's plenty of other karaoke nights that happen all across the city, ones that are not specifically tailored to metal or punk or extreme and alternative music. So, you have your pick with that. Alright, coming up in June, I have a show that I've organized on Monday, June 15th. This is going to be at L'Hémisphère Gauche, actually, with the band LMI, who are I guess you could call them like a stoner punk band. That's what they call themselves. It's like stoner punk, maybe a little bit of mathcore in there, a little bit of standard hardcore punk as well, all kind of thrown into a blender. They're from Pennsylvania, not Philadelphia, but they are from Pennsylvania. I forget the name of the city that they're from, though. And yeah, they're playing at L'Hémisphère Gauche on Monday, June 15th with local sludge grinders, Unsucked, who are, of course, my partner and my bandmate Aaron in Ratpiss is the drummer for Unsucked, and Iris, who is the live guitarist of Mistwalker, is on bass in that band. And then we have Mercure, who are a new hardcore punk band that, as far as I know, may not have actually played any shows yet. I don't even really have an idea of what they sound like outside of this one demo that they sent me. But, I'm friends with Nick, who is the guitar player in the band, I think. And, he offered them up for this show, so I said, sure, fuck it, why not, let's do it. So yeah, that show should be fun. It's going to be a weekday night, obviously, so we're going to start it a little earlier. Like, it's going to be a doors 7, show 8 sort of situation. But LMI is pretty sick, and you should come out and support them, support a touring band. Give them your money, buy their merch, mosh, headbang, etc. If you want an idea of what they sound like, in my opinion, they sound a little bit like Cell Press. Maybe a little less on the mathy side, more on the stoner side. But if you know Cell Press, then you kind of have like a basic idea of what LMI sounds like. And we're going to play a song from them right now. So without further ado, this is LMI once again from Philadelphia. Wait, sorry, not Philadelphia, Pennsylvania.
You ever look a shark in the eye? It just stares back.
But you're not a Christian, so what do you believe?
Look, I'd consider myself a realist, but in philosophical terms, I'm what's called a pessimist.
Okay, what's that mean?
It means I'm bad at parties.
Let me tell you, you ain't great outside the parties either.
To be forgot, it tasted sour, it left to rot.
Human consciousness is a tragic misstep in evolution.
Fucking awful, Rush.
Let's unforget humans exist.
I think the honorable thing for our species to do is deny our programming. Stop reproducing. Walk hand in hand into extinction. One last midnight, brothers and sisters opting out of a raw deal.
Over the edge, crevice and jet, the steel inside, we must run.
You asked.
Yeah, and now I'm begging you to shut the fuck up.
Alright, what you just heard was LMI with Climax of Rejection from their album Failed to Feel It, which came out in, I think, 2024. Those guys have a new record that is coming out in July. It's called LMI 5. I'm very much looking forward to that. And yeah, like I said, they have kind of like a stoner punk meets math meets, I guess, sludge sort of sound, so pretty cool. That was followed by Unsucked with their song Cockeyed from their demo called Vegetarius. And yeah, they also have new material in the works. I believe they have a new EP that is more professionally recorded coming out sometime this year. I'm not exactly sure when. And that was followed by Hackapick with their song Oubliette from Alcoholic Sludge, which came out last year, and I also reviewed on my blog Where Strides the Behemoth. So yeah, some pretty cool songs that we've played here today from bands that I think are pretty cool. My own bands notwithstanding, we fucking suck. Fuck Mistwalker, fuck Ratpiss, fuck those bands. Absolute garbage, hate them. So yesterday I had to go to Behemoth because the last time I was there I was filming some bands. I think it was for the fundraiser show for Ziggy's house, because they're a person in the Montreal punk scene who lost their family home in a fire. It was out in Ganawage, so Sam, who runs Carving Space, who is also the vocalist of Fertilizer 1492, organized that show, and I was there. I filmed a couple of the bands who played. Those sets will eventually make their way to Distortion MTL. But anyway, I lost my camera batteries. I left them there. Wawa texted me like 3 or 4 days after, being like, "Hey, are these yours?" So I wanted to film some bands at Earslaughter this weekend, so I had to make my way down to Behemoth set yesterday to get those batteries back, and it took up a pretty big chunk of my day. So one thing that I always hear about Montreal is how we apparently have like the best public transit system in North America, and I will say that it is pretty good compared to other public transit systems that I've experienced, like the one in Toronto, for example, or based on what I've heard of the ones that exist in certain cities in the States. But man, sometimes it is really annoying when you're waiting for the bus and the bus is like 10, 15, 20 minutes late, or the metro breaks down every like 20 minutes. But anyway, that's a conversation for another time. Either way, I wanted to go over some of the recent sets that had been posted to Distortion MTL, just to make you aware that if you enjoy watching live music and you missed these shows, you can go check them out there. Starting off with Bonginator, the Massachusetts death metal band who Ratpiss played with back on April 25th at Thrashcan, rest in peace, also with Dumbass. I shot that whole show, well, not the whole show, the whole set from Bonginator. That was posted earlier this week, and I also shot a drum cam of myself from that show, and that's up on my personal channel, which is just Greg Gravengrave on YouTube. I had no idea, obviously, while playing that show, that it was going to be the second last, the penultimate show ever, not just at Thrashcam, but at that space permanently. Like, that spot, from what I understand, is completely burned, which really, really sucks. Like, you have no idea, man. The amount of shows that I had played at that space, whether it was when it was known as Trackside or when it was known as Thrashcam, whatever, the amount of shows I'd just been to at that venue is countless. You can look through the Distortion MTL channel and see just how many sets I filmed that were at that space, and now it's gone forever because fuck the police, basically. I'm really bummed about that, but you know, what can you do? Eventually, another spot like that will hopefully open up, and you know, we'll be waiting here for when that happens. Besides that, I also got the final show from the death crust band Ater. I never know how to pronounce that band's name. It's like ATER, but it's an acronym. You know, it stands for something. What it stands for, I don't know. But they're a pretty sick death crust band from here in Montreal, and they are going on a indefinite hiatus for the time being because their bassist Carla is moving away. So they played their last show for the time being at Brasserie des Patriotes back on April 26th, which was a Sunday. They played that with Fane, who are a BC punk band, Throw, who are kind of like a blackened punk band from here in Montreal, featuring members of Spectral Wound, and Serpent Corpse, who is, you know, everyone's favorite new wave of OSDM band from Montreal. That show was pretty cool, and I only filmed Ater's set from that, and it is on the Distortion MTL channel right now. The thing is, the same day that that show is happening, the band Seum, who I played a song from earlier in this show, was also doing a fucking tour of the Metro, which is so cool. Like, I don't know of any other metal or punk band that has done such a thing in the STM here, the Metro system in Montreal. They played 4 shows. 3 of them ended up being in the actual Metro station. I think it was Jean Talon, I think it was Barrie, and then no, there was one before Barrie. It might have been Saint Laurent, actually. I don't know. I don't remember the actual stations that they played because I didn't get to go. I wanted to try and make it, and I rushed. I really rushed as soon as the show that Ater played was done at the Brasserie des Patriotes. I hopped on the Metro and made my way to Barrie, tried to get there as fast as possible, but by the time I got there, it was already over, and they were just packing up their gear. And unfortunately, the STM security pigs, they shut them down. Fuck those guys. They suck. And so the last show, instead of being at, I think, VO Metro is where it was supposed to be, they ended up playing outside at Parc La Lancette in Hochelaga. And I got that on video, so that will be on the Distortion MTL channel. I think it's already up there now. I also got High Anxiety from the Varning Benefit show back on May 1st. That, I think, was uploaded today. And then there is also the Seum album release show, of which I filmed Fertilizer's set because they had a bunch of guest vocalists. For whatever reason, I forget now, Sam couldn't perform at that show, even though he did get on stage for a couple songs here and there. And so he got a bunch of guests to fill in, including like Rod from Sentimendua, as well as Justin from Ghidorah, and Kayla from Error 804. A bunch of... Oh, and sorry, Object of Loathing as well. Yeah, a bunch of different guest vocalists for their set, so I thought it would be cool to film that. And then I also got Seum's set after that. So yeah, those shows will all be on the Distortion MTL channel, hopefully by the time you're listening to this. And I got a few more coming down the tubes after that for the following week. But yeah, that's going to be it for the update on that channel. What do we have coming up next? I actually don't know what I have coming up next. I'll have to take a look at the playlist. Alright, well, I guess we can talk about some news, because there have been a few interesting things that have come across my radar in the past couple of days. Starting with this, which brings me much misery to report. AI-powered version of Ozzy to appear in City. And this comes from the BBC, from writer Ed James. And it says, a new AI-powered avatar of Black Sabbath singer Ozzy Osbourne could make its first UK appearance in Birmingham. Osbourne's wife Sharon and son Jack announced plans for the hyper-real version of the Birmingham-born singer at an expo in the US last week. Talking to Ed James on BBC Radio WM, she said that plans for the avatar were brilliant. I've seen the tests that they've done of Ozzy, and you can see every pore on his face, his beard's coming through. It's that detailed, she said. Osbourne died in July, aged 76, less than 3 weeks after he had performed at Villa Park with Black Sabbath. Two digital companies, Hyperreal and Proto Hologram, announced they were working on the technology. The avatar would be able to perform, have conversations with fans, and move, speak, and respond as Ozzy would, they said. It will appear in America and the UK by the end of the summer, and Sharon Osbourne said she hoped it would appear in Birmingham first. It's going to go around the world. We're going to take it around the world, but it has to be in Birmingham first. The avatar could do absolutely everything, and she believed it could appear in concerts, films, or adverts. You can go and talk to Ozzy and ask him anything you want, and he will talk back to you. You can have your photo taken with Ozzy. Ask him anything you want, and he can talk to you. He can tell the audience he loves them. He can just be Ozzy. After you get over the tears, it's brilliant, Sharon Osbourne added. In a YouTube video, Jack Osbourne said the avatar was going to be tasteful. He also revealed, it's something that I think my dad would be into because we actually talked about it before he passed about doing something like this. It has not yet been made clear how the avatar will be used, but he said it could be used as part of an exhibition or similar. This is some high-level technology that we're going to be working with, and it's going to feel very real, and it's kind of wild how it will be utilized, he said. Since the death of the former Black Sabbath singer, Sharon Osbourne said her family had found a lot of comfort in the support they had received from fans around the world. Grief is a very weird thing, and I truly believe it never leaves you. You just have to learn to live with it. It's been incredible, the outpouring of love for Ozzy. She also said Aston Villa's victory in the Europa League final had been so joyous for Birmingham. Who cares about that? It's what everyone needed. It unites everybody, she said. It's relieving to talk about something where you're a winner. So that's the end of the article there, and I just find myself like completely and utterly disgusted with stuff like this, because look, on one hand it's good that you got like a sort of like, I guess, casual, vague approval of Ozzy himself to actually do this, like before he died. Like there have been some cases of famous people and celebrities signing over like their likeness or their voice to be used in the event of their death through AI. And I mean, like that's good, in at least that you're not like, you know, violating their wishes on a personal level. But I also just kind of think we need to learn to let people die. Because I don't know if you've noticed, but it kind of feels like our entire culture, and when I say our, I'm talking like predominantly in North America, though I don't know if this is a problem that is unique to North America. It kind of feels like it might be a thing experienced around the world, that our culture has just stagnated. You know, we are stuck in this eternal loop of glorifying and reliving the past, and you see that kind of thing displayed in not just within music, but also in movies is probably where it's like the most bad. It's where it's the most obvious. You see it in Hollywood, right? I mean, how many years have people been complaining about the endless churning out of sequels and remakes and prequels and reboots, recycles, reuses, whatever the hell you want to call them, of properties that existed way in the past, like in the fucking 70s, the 80s, the 90s. Like, you're seeing ridiculous fucking sequels come out for movies that nobody wanted sequels to. You know, and this has been the case for like going on 20 years now in the Hollywood studio system, where they just have no fresh ideas, and anytime anything has any slight scintilla of cultural relevance, it is just beaten into the ground with sequel after sequel after sequel. Like, I think of a good example of being like, you know, Todd Phillips, right? The dude makes The Hangover 1. It's a beloved, critically acclaimed, audience acclaimed, financially successful, box office successful fucking comedy film. And then he comes out with a sequel, and it's like, yeah, well, it's okay. You know, it's not as good as the first one, but it's still pretty funny. And then the third one comes out, and everyone hates it. And then he comes around years later and makes The Joker, which, like, you know, love it or hate it, it was a popular film. It was successful, right? And I mean, me personally, on an individual level, I thought it was fantastic. It is basically just a retread of Taxi Driver, but like with a DC Comics coat of paint. I just really love Joaquin Phoenix. I think he did great in that film. Whatever. And then a couple years later, they're like, "Oh, we're coming out with a sequel, by the way," and it's like, that movie didn't need a fucking sequel. You know, it pretty much ends where it ends, and the sequel comes out, and like everyone fucking hates it, and it's pretty clear to me that the guy who made the movie fucking hates it. You know, it's like, oh, you want me to make a sequel? Well, I'm just gonna make something that, you know, drags your intelligence through the mud, and drags your love of the first movie through the mud, because fuck you, I shouldn't have to be making this. And that's kind of what I feel is happening with stuff like this. It's like, okay, Ozzy has had, well, he had a very successful career. You know, he has the credit of being in what many people consider to be the very first heavy metal band ever, and being part of the invention of an entirely new genre of music. I mean, you can debate the minutia of it, but it is pretty commonly accepted that that is the case. Black Sabbath has an indomitable legacy, and then Ozzy's solo career also has an indomitable legacy. He was on reality TV. He's toured all over the fucking world. He's released like countless fucking albums and songs. He is a legend in his own right. But nobody lives forever. And he died last year after having an opportunity to do something that most musicians don't get to do, which is, you know, understanding that he's going to die soon and being able to perform one last farewell show before that happens. Literally, like, he performed it and then 2 weeks later he was dead. Like, how many musicians can really say that they get that opportunity? And now Sharon and Jack and the entire Osborne family and estate are going to just milk that for whatever it's worth and just be like, oh, hey, look, here's this AI fucking mural or hologram or whatever that of Ozzy that will exist like in perpetuity or something. And it just kind of strikes me as like I don't want to go and talk to an AI of a guy who died years ago, you know? I would rather like look to the future and see who or what new thing is coming up that is, you know, maybe following in the footsteps of that person, but we need to like make room for new people to come in and to breathe in these spaces. That's my ultimate point. You know, like, I think about the legacy of these old-ass metal bands like Judas Priest and Metallica, who've been around for like 40, 50 years now. And those guys are all going to die eventually, like, some of them sooner than others. And it's like, okay, you look at someone like Metallica, literally the biggest metal band who's ever existed, the most successful financially, and also with like in regards to mainstream appeal. And who's going to replace them? And you look at a band like, okay, well, we have like Lamb of God, for example, or maybe Gojira from France. And those bands are both enormous. They're huge. They play to like giant fucking stadiums of people now at this point. Amon Amarth, another good example. Like, they pack out stadiums. Ghost also. But like, these are all bands that are full of dudes who are in their 40s, in their 50s. And my point is that when Metallica and Judas Priest and Iron Maiden and Black Sabbath were really experiencing like massive cultural influence and appeal, they were quite a bit younger than that. You know? So it's like the upper age limit of when a band reaches that level of success has gone up over time. And, you know, there are other things that are related to this that are also related to things like, you know, just general quality of life and the average lifespan of a person in any given country. Like, the average lifespan of a human being in a place like Canada or in the United States or in England has really gone up over the last century. And because of that, you know, people are living longer, so people are not dying and making room for other people. And I'm not saying that people should be dying. I'm just saying that nothing is really like coming in to prevent this from happening. Nothing is coming in to prevent these legendary bands from just like constantly eating up the spotlight. Like, how many times have you gone onto a website like Metal Sucks or Blabbermouth or Metal Injection or Loudwire or whatever, and like every single article is about like the same 10 bands. And some of those bands are old as hell, like Megadeth or Anthrax, and other bands are bands like, you know, Slipknot, who came around like 10, 20 years after the fact, but from my point of view are also old as hell. Because I'm in my 30s and I was listening to Slipknot when I was in high school. And every second article is about something that Corey Taylor said or thinks. And like, I'm sick of like harping on about this, but my ultimate point is just that I think that even just aside from the environmental damage and also like the mental damage that these AI companies are inflicting upon the world, that these data centers are inflicting upon the world, there's also something just really gross about not letting the dead be dead. And I think we really need to move on from that, and again, create some space for new blood to come in and to sustain these genres of music that we all love so much. And that's my final piece about that. I guess in a sort of similar vein, we have this story, which comes from blabbermouth.net. I don't know who the author is, because it doesn't say, so presumably this was just like transcribed from some radio report, I assume. But yeah, this is from May 28th, 2026, so today. In a new interview, oh yeah, I should read the title first, shouldn't I? Yes. Wendy Dio says the new lineup of the officially sanctioned Dio tribute band will hit the road in the fall of 2026. So, in a new interview with Argentinian rock journalist Lucas H. Gordon, who currently resides in California, Ronnie James Dio's widow and longtime manager Wendy Dio spoke about the status of the officially sanctioned Dio tribute band Dio Disciples. She said, as transcribed by blabbermouth.net, "I'm excited about the new Dio lineup, so we're going to take Dio and the Dio band out again. I don't know if it's going to be called Dio Disciples or it's going to be Dio and the Disciples or Dio. We don't know yet. The name is not there, but it will be Ronnie and not in a hologram, not an AI, so at least there's that. But we're going to do real Ronnie in Ronnie video." That's a weird sentence. So we have Ronnie video, and he will sing with the band about 4 songs. Asked who will be in the new Dio band, Wendy said, "The new lineup will be with Simon Wright on drums as usual, Bjorn Englund on bass as usual, Scott Warren on keyboards as usual, and the 2 vocalists will be Oni Logan, who used to be in Lynch Mob, and Robin McCauley, who was in Michael Schenker's band. And on guitar will be Rowan Robertson, who used to play in the Dio band with the Lock Up the Wolves album, and we're very excited about it. Hopefully we'll do some dates in the fall in the US, and then next year we're hoping to tour the whole of Europe and South America." Wendy also talked about various Dio-related projects that are currently in the works, including previously unreleased material that has yet to see the light of day. She said, "We have some more things, and plus I wanted to put together a bunch of songs that Ronnie did with other people that a lot of people don't know. Like, he did 2 songs with Carrie Livgren from Kansas, and he did a rendition of Dream On, and he did one of an Alice Cooper track, I'm assuming Dream On being the Aerosmith song. He did, of course, I Could Have Been a Dreamer. He performed with the Philharmonic Orchestra in Deep Purple, and then he did something with a bunch of different bands or different things, and he did that Christmas thing. I was thinking to put them all together of things that maybe fans are not aware of or would like to hear them again. He did a track with Girl School, he did a track with a bunch of different people and different things, so I think it'd be interesting to put them all on one collection. Plus, I have a couple of unreleased tracks that I would like to put out. We have a live show that I'm working on right now that was done in the 80s, a Dio live show that's never been out before. I think it's from Seattle. It's from 83, I think. It's a live show that's never been out, but there's a lot of different things. There's a couple of love songs that Ronnie wrote for me and recorded that's never been out. He'd probably kill me if I put those out. He never wrote love songs, but he wrote a couple of love songs for me and recorded them, and I think they're pretty good. So yeah, it's an exciting time, I think. I'm doing lots and lots of different things. Okay, so yeah, about that. The article goes on, but it's mostly just like promoting other things. So this, I feel, is a little less egregious than the AI thing that's going on with Ozzy, because you're not like impersonating somebody who's dead. Like, what's happening, I'm assuming, based on the way that this article is described, is that they're going to have videos of Ronnie, of Dio, singing like on a screen behind the rest of the band as they're performing the instrumentals. And that's only going to happen with like 4 songs out of the entire set, because they mentioned the 2 singers that are going to be there who are presumably going to sing those other songs. And like, I think that that is more reasonable. However, it still kind of plays into the same problem of just like, you know, let the dead be dead. And I'm not trying to shit on Wendy Dio here, because, you know, she's got to make a living as well. The same can be said for all these musicians. But it's like, I'm not trying to say that bands who have dead members or who are defunct shouldn't be able to like still exist in a cultural sense. Like, you know, Motorhead would be a good example. Like, Motorhead, all the original members of that band are dead. Like, they are gone completely. And yet, every other year, there is a new release of some compilation album that contains, like, you know, maybe it's got some rarities that you've never heard before, or maybe it's just a reorganized collection of songs. And while that's not really something that appeals to me, I mean, maybe the B-sides would, the unreleased, unheard material would. It's like not the same as, you know, using an AI to generate a hologram of a guy who's been dead and who's going to like speak to you and interact with you and answer you when you have questions. Like, that's just like having Ozzy's ghost on a statue plinth somewhere, you know? It's super bizarre. But this stuff with Dio, I think it's more defensible, but I still find it kind of uncomfortable. Like, at least they're not doing the hologram thing, because I think that is pretty tasteless. And I also think the AI thing is like, that is the most tasteless thing of all. Not really a huge fan of the videos, but like, you know, whatever, they're gonna do it, so I guess that's that. And then yeah, I guess there's excuse me, one other piece of news here that I thought was kind of interesting or worth talking about, even though it's for a band who I don't really particularly care for. Caleb Shomo recently came out as gay. He's the singer of Beartooth, for those who don't know. And yeah, of course, there was obviously plenty of people who were like supportive or whatever. Like, I obviously have no issue with it myself, but there were plenty of people who were also like, you know, doing the predictable, like, oh, well, if you heard his band's music, then it's no shock that he is gay. You know, just that general sentiment was like echoed a lot in the comment sections for the posts that I saw. But this article comes from Metal Injection, and it's by Lavia Thomas from 3 days ago. Caleb Shomo's wife responds to him coming out. So, over the weekend, Beartooth's frontman Caleb Shomo released some major news. The singer published a fresh Instagram post announcing that he identifies as a gay man. This news comes after Shomo recently deleted his Instagram page following the release of the band's newest single, Free. Since then, the singer has been greeted with an influx of supportive messages, and rightly so. In the period between announcing the news and now, just yesterday, Shomo's wife, Fleur Shomo, has updated an official response. It reads, "Not really sure how to start this, cause does anything even need to be said, but I guess I'll dive right in. The past few months have been a very disorienting and hurtful time to navigate, for both of us. But I will always want to love, protect, and support Caleb. I have cared more about his well-being over the years than anything else in the world. To see the confusion and pain he went through and the highs and lows and wanting to help but not knowing how. You never want anything more for your person than for them to just be okay. You also ask yourself constantly if you're a bad person for wondering what the fuck this means for your world and the anger you also feel. I am the only person that is having to deal with the duality of this situation. To support him whilst losing everything has been incredibly hard to figure out. You can love and support your person through the hardest time in their life whilst also be completely demolished and lose yourself at the same time. You question everything, but I have learned the one thing I don't need to question is our history. No matter what anyone will say, I know it. I've always wanted nothing more than for Caleb to be happy. Trying to help him go through this without having any idea what to do has been a learning curve we never expected to experience together. The isolation of not being able to talk to people about this has been profound, as it has not been my story to share. My mental health has suffered, and I have had moments where I have not felt or acted like myself. For those that have known and been there, thank you. I'll never be able to repay your kindness. Our nearly 14 years of marriage was wonderful and full of so much fun, adventure, and love. Nobody will know anything about our marriage like we do, and no one can ever truly know what depths of love exist between two people unless they are those people. I already miss it and my husband more than anything. Our story was a good one, and now it's done. I hope anyone in the world going through this finds hope and courage, and I hope the fans can continue to support Caleb. For now, I'm going to keep focusing on what I can control and continue living my life, trying to achieve what I want to achieve. And if I keep saying hi to as many dogs as possible along the way, then I'm sure things will slowly get better day by day, piece by small piece, bird by bird. And that's sourced by Lamb Goat. She has since turned her Instagram account private, and we don't blame her, as navigating this news on top of the overwhelming responses mustn't be easy. This fall, Beartooth is heading on an extensive Pure Ecstasy world tour, blah 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 blah, with a bunch of bands. They got a new album coming out later this year, so yeah. Yeah, it's... I don't really know what to say about it. I just kind of thought it was interesting that, you know, his wife would be getting the coverage on, well, I guess his ex-wife now. I don't know if they're still technically legally married. I mean, I know that the divorce process takes like a long time or whatever. But I do find it interesting that this news has been covered by, you know, Metal Injection and Metal Sucks and all these other websites. Yeah, it can't be easy to be like the spouse of a famous musician, you know? Because, like, I don't know what Fleur Shomo does for a living, right? I don't know what her whole deal is. And I just kind of think it's interesting that, like, this website will be covering this at all, because to my understanding, she's not a public figure, right? I mean, maybe she is. Maybe she's, like, doing something in the music industry. Maybe she's in a band herself. Maybe she's, like, a tattoo artist. Like, who knows? But, yeah, it just doesn't seem like this is something that needs to, like, necessarily be put on blast. Especially considering, like, this article also mentions that, like, you know, she put her Instagram to private because of the amount of attention that it was getting, and now they're just, like, piling onto that and, like, adding more attention to it. Like, I don't know. I mean, maybe you could say the same thing about me. I'm talking about it right now, but what the fuck do I know? Nobody's gonna listen to this. I'm just doing this for myself. But yeah, interesting story. Obviously, I don't know. I wish them both the best. I don't know them. I don't really care for Beartooth's music either. Like, it's not really in my wheelhouse of heavy or alternative stuff. I've never really been a huge metalcore fan. I guess I liked some bands when I was younger. I had a big Sumerian core phase when I was, like, in my late teens and early 20s. And then I discovered black metal, and then that all went out the window. So yeah. But that's going to do it for the news this time around. I don't know if I'll do this every single episode, but I thought it would be interesting to maybe just, like, you know, cover some of the goings-on within the metal culture, broadly speaking. And yeah, just to put a pin in it, I think that AI stuff with Ozzy is gross. The stuff with Dio is less gross, I guess. And the stuff with Caleb Shomo is just like, yeah, well, he's gay. Who cares? You know, whatever. Just keep doing you, man. Whatever. That's all I got to say about that. And yeah, I guess we'll play one more song here to play us out for the day. I'm going to choose one of my own tracks again. This is from a mincecore project that I did last summer, actually. The name of the project is Blasphemy. And the EP is called Putrid Rubbish. I guess it's more of a demo. There's 3 tracks on it. And I recorded this because Mick, the promoter for Earslaughter, the organizer for Earslaughter, as well as the bassist for Soil of Ignorance, who are a great band that you should definitely check out, had me hold on to one of his guitars for a while until he was able to come back to Montreal and pick it up, and he told me to go nuts with it. So I just recorded this shitty little mincecore demo while I had access to that. So here it is. This is going to be Circle the Drain from Blasphemy.